Hello and welcome to the BG podcast. My name is A.J. Bingham, CEO of Bingham Group, and joining me is Hannah Garcia, an associate with the firm. Welcome to the show, Hannah.
Hello, everybody.
Well, this is episode 229 and our last episode of 2023. It's been a year.
It has been a year.
And you came up, you're about what, a year, you've been here about a year and 3 months now?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's flown. I don't know, time's gone.
I know.
And as we get to that too, this is our review episode of the year, and I know Hannah had some just points and thoughts and extrapolations she wanted to share. I'm gonna be chiming in as well, but I think Hannah, I'm gonna turn it over to you. Let's talk about it.
Yeah. So I guess to recap the year, we wanted to give out some superlatives, some fun little awards, and I think we'll start it off with the rookies of the year. It was very, very difficult to choose one, I think, council member or elected official in the city of Austin that, that stood out by themselves because they all did so much. So I think we wanted to
very active year.
Yeah, I think we wanted to recognize council members Ryan Alter, Zoe Kadri, and Jose Velasquez as kind of the rookies of the year. We saw a lot of action from the dais, and especially from our first time council members. We saw Ryan Alter very active in the affordable housing initiative with his resolution to conduct a study for student housing, not only in the West Campus area, but for St. Ed's and ACC. A lot of ACC students live throughout the city as well. And so we saw a lot of action there. Also, council member Zoe Kadri, he passed the resolution to eliminate parking requirements in the city of Austin, among a lot of other things, including one of the things that stands out to me, something we often forget about, is that apartments having windows. That is a luxury.
Oh, yes,
and so,
that little thing.
Yeah,
little vitamin D.
Yeah. You don't realize it's a luxury, but it really is. And so he also passed a resolution to no longer allow apartments with no windows. And then, as well as Jose Velasquez, he did a lot of great things, including one of his recent initiatives was financial assistance for those who want to utilize the recently passed HOME Act, which was also something from Councilmember Leslie Poole. And so if you need financial assistance or some assistance from the city to build that second or third unit, you can also do that thanks to a resolution from Councilmember Velasquez. So we just wanted to give them all a shout out because it's your first year on the dais and passing that many pretty hefty resolutions, I would say. Kind of a big deal.
No, definitely so. And, just looking back at prior years, right, normally you don't have just freshman council members, right, first-time council members necessarily doing the kind of substantive legislation, ordinances, resolutions that they put forth, both individually and as blocks.
Yeah.
And so I think definitely that's going to be a continuation on the land use front we're going to see going in 2024 through the full into 2024.
Yeah, and with we had 3 new council members this year, and so
the mayor's he's new.
Okay, yeah.
Mayor Watson's he's back, and there's an asterisk, respectful asterisk, right, because he's returning the dais, though a different council structure.
Yes.
And very different in a bigger city. We'll get to that.
In a way, he is kind of a rookie, but he's a more seasoned political veteran, I'd like to say. And then I also think, we want to give a shout out to our biggest surprise of the year, which was the HOME Act coming from Councilmember Leslie Poole. Previously, we've seen her stand more with the groups that oppose density and oppose more development in the city. So to see her come out with this huge land development code or overhaul to a very specific part of the land development code, that increases density in single-family home lots was a big surprise, I think, for a lot of people.
Hannah, we've talked about this ad nauseum on the last several episodes, right? Big surprise on all sides of this issue around neighborhood density, or for or against on this. I think, again, this has been a year ago, and we go back in time and lay out the legislation to any sides for or against it and say, who do you think this came from? She would not have been the list.
No.
As the author of it, and kudos to her office as well. We worked on several issues, not on this one, but major lift on some substantive policy that's going to have far-reaching impacts for Austin, and another piece of policy that we'll see the ripples of this very soon. I know applications related to HOME Act are going to start being turned in or opening up rather in February of 24. And so very soon in the next in Q1 of 24, we'll start seeing just the practicality of this. And then I have no doubts some sort of legal challenge to it, just given the prior history around major comprehensive land development and code reform in the city of Austin.
Yeah, and another big year ahead of us.
Oh yes, oh yes.
And then the best quote / catchphrase of the year goes to interim city manager Jesus Garza. His quote, "Back to the basics."
Back to the basics.
When he was doing the budget, he said, "We're going back to the basics." And I know we've stolen that catchphrase and quote a few times. We're always like, we're in the back to the basics era.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've definitely stolen that a few times. So we just wanted to give him a shout out to that, just because not only is it a great kind of little quote to live by.
Mm-hmm. I'd add too. I mean, I had this in my notes and your show notes, but also the bias towards action era. I think we've used both.
Yes.
But the bias towards action era, we've seen that hugely this year. Interim city manager Garza came in March.
Yeah.
Or no,
February.
Late February of 23, and bias towards action from day one.
Yeah, and
For
I
sure.
liked it because it felt like a Taylor Swift reference, because she refers to all of her albums as eras, and he
The
said,
era.
yeah, he was in his bias towards action era.
Yes.
I can't believe I never told you that. That's like what I always
No.
think.
He cracked the zeitgeist. He's in the zeitgeist.
Okay.
I love it.
And then our best comeback of the year was, of course, Mayor Watson and the rest of the former city executive staff that came back from the 90s. They had originally, had their first run, I would say, back in the late 90s, early 2000s.
Mm-hmm.
And that includes, Mayor Watson, interim city manager Jesus Garza, our current Austin Energy manager,
Mm-hmm.
and
Airport director, and several assistant city managers as well, for transportation, public safety.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and this was I think some folks have quoted it as being the 90s vacation of Austin.
Yes.
And I think, but it gets across the board. I mean, this has been a unique time, I think, in City of Austin's history where, I mean, we forgot. I just thinking about this the other week, right? Just how much change happened coming into 2023.
Yeah.
Beyond, I mean, just on the city, on the government level, right? So beyond the things we knew were going to happen with the council changing, Mayor Adler, the first mayor under the 10-1 system, he termed out after 8 years, having a new mayor coming in, regardless of who it would have been, with a very tight election too. With a runoff, and several new seats coming in, new faces rather, an overall council that shifted significantly younger.
Yes.
I'm still, folks who are in their 30s, but just went probably 10, 15-year drop in age.
Yeah.
Right. Significant change, and then on the city executive side, the departure of now departed city manager Spencer Crunk, as well as the departure of some of the departments we talked about, the Austin Energy, the airport, the police chief, and several other assistant city managers who were under Crunk's administration were departed as well. Not to mention levels of leadership below that. And Hannah, as you developed over the last several months, the red line org chart showing some of the reorganizations too that interim city manager Garza has implemented and made permanent too.
Yeah.
So a lot of stuff's happened, and a lot of those actions are going to carry over for most definitely into 24, almost in 2025, especially with the city manager, because we have the search going on now for a permanent city manager.
Yeah. And they've chosen Mosaic Public Affairs search firm to conduct that search, and so we'll see how that goes. But they've said that we'll have a new city manager chosen by
September.
September.
Yeah, I mean, I think the person could be chosen, and most likely they're selected by then. But for sure they'd start by January 25, which is interesting then too. I mean, that's a year away, right? But when that person starts, whomever that person's is, it's going to be, again, a kind of the same situation we came into this year in terms of a council leadership change. Well, won't be as significant, but we're going to have 2 open seats going into the 2024 cycle. District 7, Leslie Pool's seat, and District 10, Allison Alter's seat. And so it won't be as big of a shift, most likely. I mean, I know Mayor Watson's up for re-election. We have 3 other council members that are for re-election: Councilmember Mackenzie Kelly, Councilmember Vanessa Fuentes, and Councilmember Chito Vela. Right? We'll see how those races play out. Right? Presumably, though, the council we shouldn't expect as major of a shift as we did going into this cycle. Well, now we have a new city manager, and that person, wherever they come from, the city structure is going to have their own ideas, presumably, of how they want to operate the city and how that's going to jive, integrate with how the current council wants to operate, and with the current, not even that, but the current city executive structure that interim city manager Garza has implemented.
Yeah, we shall see.
So just in terms of all the a lot of interim roles that Garza inherited have been made permanent, right? But it's there's a private sector. It's a new CEO coming in, and the city manager of Austin is the CEO of the city. It's speculation at this point, but it's bless you. We blow out theater going on right now, but right, it's something that it's far away, but it's not, because time is flies and stuff.
Yeah.
So more to come on that.
Yeah. Big year ahead of us again. And then we wanted to shout out some of our favorite City Hall's news resources this year. So those are Austin Monitor. The Austin Monitor does a lot of great reporting on City Hall and just kind of all of the news happening, and they break down a lot of the technical policy changes that are happening really well.
Yeah, the Austin Monitor, I'll give them a plug. I'm not on the board anymore, but I used to be on I was on one of their board members. It is actually the first news source, the first thing I get up when I get up in the morning and read. I highly suggest that for folks who I recommend that for folks who are interested in City of Austin politics. I think it's the one, it is the only dedicated news source that's free as well, that you can find focused coverage on City Hall, comings and goings, both major issues as well as things that may not be as as sexy as the Zilker vision plan, but are important to the city. So Joel and the whole team, y'all do great work. All your writers, staff, and the board, just thank y'all for keeping it free. And again, that's a source we definitely recommend for folks who are looking to stay informed of what's going on at City Hall.
Yeah, and then another one is Ben Thompson of Community Impact. I follow his Twitter, and he live tweets the City Hall or City Council at City Hall, and so he has a lot of good insight of what's happening as it's happening. So I definitely recommend him, as well as his articles on Community Impact.
He also broke the story, or he was in the hearing room when regarding the most recent LDC, Land Development Code resolutions that got overturned.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah, so he reported that. He broke that news first.
Yeah.
As I recall.
So
shout out to Ben.
Yeah, great stuff from him. And then Austin Commons on Instagram, they do a lot of reporting on City Hall, as well as just really good information. Like, I didn't know that you had to leave all of your little or that you could leave sticks and brush out for the trashmen to take, and how you had to do that until they posted a video about how exactly you're supposed to leave out all of your recycling and your trash. And so now I know how to leave it out so it gets taken. So that was a really great resource for me. And so a really big shout out to them, just because they cover a lot of bases for people living in the city of Austin, and do a lot of great, really unbiased reporting of news.
Very good.
And then our final segment is the biggest news of the year. So we wanted to highlight some of the biggest news stories of the year, and most of them are centered in the first 2 months of the year.
Oh man, yeah, just look at these bullets. I mean, and some of these are things we already talked about, but yeah. And it's interesting how some of these, they're all dominoes to a degree, right? But let's get to it.
Yeah, so immediately after inauguration, I think not even 30 days probably after inauguration, the ice storm in February, the one that took out most of our power lines and left me without power for a good week. So that was rough. And I think that's something that a lot of Austinites are both traumatized by and now are uber prepared for.
Yeah, just coming out of Winter Storm Uri, which is the year before that. I mean, I think definitely, and I think going forward for anyone who was in Austin, I mean, it affected all Texas, but in Austin, and got through where survived Winter Storm Uri. I mean, I have PTSD anytime I see we're good that time of year, right?
Mm.
And make sure definitely have my water and everything else secured now.
Yeah. My grandma gets a case of water every time she goes to Costco
Mm-hmm.
now. So we have a lot of water at her. She kind of looks like a doomsday prepper sometimes, but we appreciate it.
A little health paranoia is not, or prudent paranoia is not bad.
Yeah. And then immediately following the ice storm, city manager Spencer Cronk was fired by council.
Mm-hmm.
And immediately he was replaced by interim city manager Jesus Garcia.
And real color on that, right? So just going in December, then city manager Cronk had been given a raise by the then council under Mayor Adler, and kind of color on this too. It wasn't just it was a confluence of events. The storm was part of it, but it was also just the same time leading into this, and even proceeding in 22, there were negotiations underway between the city of Austin and the Austin Police Union.
Yes.
And I think that was the underlying cause, was that because what happened the day before a council meeting, they were going to talk about the contract.
Yeah, I believe he presented a contract that council had not necessarily approved or given their blessing towards to the Austin Police Association. And so council felt like he had failed to communicate with them.
Which is the city manager's right. Again, that person in that role is the CEO of the city. The council operates as their board, but it's the nuance of it. I think there are several factors. I think that was the biggest contributing factor, and then the storm and tying into some of our other changes that happened because of that.
Yeah, and so we got us a new city manager out of that, and a new city manager search was kicked off immediately after that. So now we still have interim city manager Jesus Garza. And then shortly after this, more big news. I think we made national news from this as well. The DPS partnership with APD. APD has been suffering from some historic staff shortages, and so they're having issues, answering 911 calls, along with a multitude of other things. And so this was kind of meant to bolster staffing. Yeah,
which also tied into, I think, kind of it all when we're talking about dominoes or cascading, just with the police union contract, right? We're seeing there, we believe from the union side, just either both pay and I think issues that actually had probably rippled from the 2020 and 2021 kind of events as well. And so those, that occurred, and tying it back in, I know because you were talking about Austin Energy's retirement as well. So
Yeah, and then shortly after that, Jackie Sargent, the former GM of Austin Energy, retired and was replaced by, do you remember his name? I can't remember his name exactly.
Not off the top of my head, we'll put that in the show notes.
Yes. He's been replaced by another. He was formerly with Austin Energy, so he also came back from with the 90 squad, as they say. And then, we had a little bit of a lull, I think, for a second. Retirement stopped for a bit. And then
Bob Kahn.
Okay, I wanted to say his name was Robert, but I know that's somebody else.
Well, Bob, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of the same thing. But and then, big news again, the Austin Police Chief, Joseph Chacon, retired as well and has been replaced, or not replaced, but
interim, yeah.
Yeah, Robin Henderson has stepped in to be the interim chief of police and has done a great job with a lot of unfortunate events happening in the Central Texas area recently. And then shifting gears to some other things that are not retirements. Parking minimums were eliminated with a resolution sponsored by Councilmember Zoe Kadri. This was, I believe, finalized in late October, and so now you no longer have to build a certain amount of parking with a building, which is a pretty big deal.
Do you remember what it was before, like before the resolution? Like I know it was because that was the issue. I mean, for developers, including parking spots were very expensive.
Yeah, and I believe it was like per unit too.
Mm-hmm.
So if you build like a single family home, you need like 2 parking spots and so forth. And so if you're building a 300 or 100 unit apartment building, that adds up to about like 5 stories of parking at some point.
Yeah.
And so as we're trying to shift to a city that's less reliant on cars and is more, able to utilize the transit along corridors, this is hopefully, going to help developers increase density and also, save a buck as they're building and pass it on to the renters. And then finally, the last, I think, big news story that had a lot of eyes on it was the home resolution that was passed by council. I believe it was a 10-2 vote. So that has been passed by council with after it was sponsored by Councilmember Leslie Poole, and we saw a lot of support from across the dais, talking about how this could be a step towards that gentle density that we want to allow the city to have, and so we'll start seeing the home resolution kind of or home ordinance now, I guess, really come into fruition after February. I'm assuming it'll take about a year for us to finally start seeing those additional units in the back, and so hopefully in 2025 we'll be talking about how maybe I'm living in a unit that is from the Home Act. So we shall see.
I also want to give a special mention to the Zilker Vision Plan.
Yes.
Because that just got.
I totally forgot about
that. When did that start? I mean, it started at the beginning of the year. I mean, it been brewing the discussion of the plan of October of 22.
Yeah, I remember in October 2022, I went to a Parks and Rec board meeting, and I had just started working with the firm. So I knew about like the city of Austin's like news, but I'd kind of been in the periphery for a second, and I just remember seeing people immediately just have really, really passionate views on it. And so I was like, oh, this is going to be, and I remember telling you, I was like, this is going to be a thing.
Yeah, I remember seeing, anything was Zilker Park. And for those who aren't from Austin, Zilker Metropolitan Park is the city's main public park. And so it was built for the whole city. Some people don't see it that way, I'm assuming. And this plan, and it gets heavy use. So it's also the site of Austin City Limits Fest, as well as Trail of Lights, which disclosure I serve on the Trail of Lights Foundation board. But it gets significant use throughout the year, and as Austin grows, only going to get more use. And the plan, and I haven't looked at it in several months, was to review and look to the kind of park that Austin needs to accommodate its population growth, amongst other things.
Yeah.
Now that was it, but we did it. Man, it got the meme accounts on Instagram about that.
Yes.
On both sides of it.
Yeah, and
the documentary that was made about it, right?
Oh my God, there's so many documentaries made about Austin politics now.
Mm-hmm. Alleged filmmakers.
But we should get in on the documentary making.
I might do it under BG Media. We'll see. Let's see how this year goes. We might allocate some funding for that. I'm sure there's some unbiased reporting unbiased filmmaking we could do.
But that was I would say that was really, I think, fun to watch because I forgot how much people in the city of Austin care about like certain things, and it made me just.
Well, it's not people with any issue, right? It's like it's certain groups for any kind of thing, and this one. It was interesting to me to see just you have the front line, the people who are driving it, right? But again, what really counts, I think, is it's the folks who are middle or low information and just on any issue, right? I mean, this is how they might have their opinions on it, right? And they need the facts. You give them the facts.
Yeah.
And
it was just so interesting to watch everyone's testimony, like why they cared, because. Obviously there was certain reasons. There was, very specific, I think, a few reasons that a lot of people opposed it. And it was really interesting to kind of hear why everyone cared so much about, like, why that specific thing made them so angry or why they were so opposed to something. And so I think it's always interesting watching, the hours of testimony.
For us it is.
Yes.
And we weren't involved in this issue at all. It was just, because we watch council all the time, it doesn't hurt when issues like this arise that normally, most things, 9 times out of 10 to go before council, no one's there for. Yeah. I mean, again, that's just they're public meetings, but people don't show up for one reason or another. And it was interesting to see the level of civic engagement around that. It's encouraging, and for whatever the issue is.
Yes.
And we saw that with the Home Act as well.
Yes.
And I'm sure, just given the amount of the volume of resolutions that were developed this last year, I doubt that this council is going to let up on that. And what I'm really curious to see what surprises are brewing on land development code policy going into 24, and definitely up and through election day.
Yeah, and I think we'll see a lot of big stuff this year, and I'm interested to see how the legislature will respond to it.
Oh yes.
Because we've got that.
Just
I
about
know it's
just
a year away,
It's a year.
but it's coming.
Well, we'll start having pre-filing of bills in October
and
of 24. So that's, and a lot of those are going to start getting developed either now or in the summer. So it's not that far away. It is, but it's not.
And then the budget happens really starts happening in April.
Of the City of Austin budget?
No, well, that one too, but also the state of Texas budget starts the development. So it's coming. It's coming very fast. But yeah, that was our recap of the year. It was a big 2023 that we tried to kind of summarize in 25 minutes.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, more to come in the new year, and we look forward to providing that to y'all. And thank you for listening to the BG Podcast. And thanks for those who are followers of the BG Reads. That's our daily email blast. It goes out typically around 6:30 in the morning, providing it's handcrafted by us on the team, by me particularly. We go through and curate stories of note, both from City of Austin, state stories, as well as national and world news, giving you at least the first few paragraphs with links to the original sources, as well as providing you updates on the BG Podcast and the BG Reads and council meetings and agendas as they happen. So we want to wish you a happy new year and safe travels or safe eventing that night. And we look forward to seeing you in 2024 and beyond.
Yeah, happy new year, everybody.